Hello, this is Erin with the Joy in Pens and Paper, and in this video, I am going to be swatching the uh, inks that I am considering for the month of January in the start of the new year 2025. I would love to hear in the comments of the 15 inks that I will be swatching, what 5 you would select if you were me. And if you happen to know my pen collection and you want to make a recommendation to pair with a specific ink, feel free to share that as well. Okay, so for this month, I have ink on my hands from playing around. But for January, all of these selections that I have are bottles. Some of the bottles are from the 2024 Diamine Ink Vent, and they're ones that I'm just kind of itching to try. But it was interesting for me as I went through the different inks that I have in my collection, how strongly I was leaning towards bottles over samples. So I'm just gonna reflect on that for a moment. Ultimately, I do want to weed through some of my samples this year. So I think maybe starting in February, I will maybe pick a sample to plan on using up. I also do like the idea that I've seen other content creators share where once they've used a sample and they feel like they know whether or not they want to buy a bottle or whatnot, then they pass it on. So I might be putting together a small collection of ink samples that I would like to rehome and perhaps pair that with a giveaway of some sort. So let's get to swatching. The first ink that I have is Birmingham Pen Company Sandstone. This is an ink that I was originally introduced to by a viewer, and I loved it. And at the time, it was sold out on the Birmingham Pen Company website, and so I watched it for a while, and when it restocked, I went ahead and snagged it. It's been a while, well, it's been a month since I've done a swatching in this style, so I had to take a moment to try to remember exactly what it was that I did. All right, and let me cap that. Next one I have is from the Diamine 2024 ink event, and it's called Nutmeg. That glare is a little tough. It does have shimmer. It is a standard shimmer. Let me just agitate that. So for those of you that celebrate Christmas, how was your Christmas? Were you able to relax and or spend time with loved ones, whether family or friends? And then when you think of Christmas, what is the food that you think of? So I have a few foods that I think of when I think of Christmas. I think of chocolate cream pie, and I think of celery and cream cheese and deviled eggs. And I had all three, as well as banana cream pie. And I make both of those, with the exception of the crust. I make all of those. I said both, all of those from scratch. Ooh, that's nice and wet. I'm always surprised when I swatch or use Inaho. It is exceptionally saturated, and Pilot Iroshizuku inks do tend to be well lubricated. This one to me feels more than well lubricated. And I do have a few other Iroshizuku inks to compare it to. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, oops. This one is more of a drier ink. That is not the kind of swatch that I wanted. That's closer to it. I got this ink to go with a Platinum Century 3776. It's I think it's cerulean white, but it's the white with gold. And it has a fine nib, and that's the ink that I paired it with. And this next ink I got at Yosaka Stationery in Brooklyn when I went in March. And I got this one with an Opus 88 with an extra fine nib. So one of my projects for 2025 is I want to create a new swatch book. I have been using a Wearingeul swatch book for maybe a year and a half, maybe a little over a year and a half. And oh yeah, so you can see feathering right there. I do think that that's very lubricated. And it's getting close to filled up. I don't think that I could, that I would have space for, well, you know what? I might have space for all of the Diamine Inkvent bottles that I just spent the month unboxing and swatching. But I don't know that I have much room outside of that. So I think I'm going to create a swatch book that can be added to without much fuss, and that I want to organize it by color family. So I have purchased some materials to do that. And I just need to organize my samples and bottles into, piles by color family so that I can start that swatching process. Okay, next one. This is another from the Diamine Ink Vent calendar. This is a chameleon, a chameleon shimmer ink. And it's called Wishing Tree. This was one of my favorites from the 25 inks. Whoopsies. Well, I'm gonna have to be okay with that. I don't love it, but I can't change it. All right, and this next one, I will have a video coming out at some point with this ink. So one of the things I noted, and I did have a viewer comment on this, is that this ink did not match the swatch on the Birmingham Pen Co. website. And another viewer has a bottle of this and said it did not match theirs. So I did reach out to Birmingham Pen Company, and they did agree that it did not look the same. So they sent me another bottle of Megalodon with a swatch that they did on Tomoe River paper before sending it. So I want to do a swatch of those two side by side just to see if it is different. Because I was doing the Ink Vent calendar, that was a daily commitment that took a lot of work to do. So I did not, I have a number of things on hold. I also have some samples to swatch from a meetup that I did with some other YouTubers and friends of mine, and I have a few inks that we did a little exchange to swatch. So that'll also be coming. And I also got some gift cards for Christmas to a fountain pen website. So I I got it a little bit before Christmas. So I've taken a few days to do some shopping, do some exploring, and today I made a purchase, and I was able to get two pens that I have really wanted. One that I've wanted for a few years, but couldn't justify spending the money on it, and because I had a gift card, it seemed like a really nice opportunity to get that pen and not feel bad about it. And the other caught my eye. The only hint that I will give is the release date coincided with the Olympics, and it was the company was noting that that was their pen that they were releasing in honor of the Olympics. So I really wanted it then, and it was sold out, and or it was sold out everywhere except for the company that the branded company that makes this pen. But the shipping at that branded company is absolutely silly. So I could not justify ordering it straight from the website. So I went ahead and got it with this. And between the gift cards, holiday sales that the website already has, and a 10% off that I get based on purchase history, I only had to pay $50 outside of the gift cards, which was really nice. So when that comes in, which I think they might come in at 2 different times, so I will be doing some unboxings, and then I may not be, if I think about it reasonably, I may not be making another fountain pen purchase until Fountain Pen Day, because I am saving up for it. And I also am realizing, so I was really excited, and to be clear, I love everything that I got on Fountain Pen Day this year, and I'm low-key proud of the sales that I got, the shopping, the value that I got for the money. But I thought that Fountain Pen Day was the day that Stilo and Steel did their Leonardo collaboration, and it was in fact Black Friday. So I think this year I either want to do 2 savings buckets or line items in my budget, one for Fountain Pen Day and one for Black Friday. Another option is I can find a way to up my content game to get more views in order to make a little bit more money on this channel, so that I can squirrel away that money for Fountain Pen Day. In case you don't know, the way that content creators make money on YouTube is through viewers watching ads, or someone with YouTube Premium watching your videos. And my videos can reach more people if they get likes and comments, and that kind of boosts the algorithm, so to speak. So it pushes the content out to more people on the suggestions side of things. So on the sidebar, or in the next up option, or in their general search. So if you have any suggestions for content that might just take me to that next level, please share. This is mostly a hobby for me, so I'm not looking to get YouTube famous or YouTube rich or anything like that, but if this could subsidize what I would typically spend in this hobby, I'd like that too. It's a very interesting palette. I didn't have a specific color that I was really drawn to. So it was really interesting to try to put this in an order so that it visually made sense. Now this color, Sleigh Ride, is not one that I would have expected to pick out, but for whatever reason, when I was flipping through the swatches, this one really caught my eye. It is a really nice red. It does have, or it is an extreme sheen, so it is going to take over and look green in just a bit as it dries. But I just thought, you know, it would be, because it is a little bit more saturated, a little bit darker, and I tend to have fine and extra fine nibs, it might be a really stunning ink to use. And then, last but not least, I want to talk about saturated. This is the dark one of the bunch, but it's also an extreme sheen. Yes, it is an extreme sheen. Good Tidings. Now, I did have somebody, or actually a couple of people, ask if I was going to do a summary of all of the Diamine Ink Vent inks. I might. I just have to see what I have for time and see if I can fit it in. But here are all of the swatches for January of 2025 that I am considering. There is a, I guess with the exception of these last two, it's very muted and almost earthy. I think the least earthy one might be Pennsylvania Fieldstone. But when writing with a finer extra fine nib, you get a little bit more of the darkness that you see haloing around the more saturated areas. So yeah. And then I've got some pinkies, I've got greens, browns. So this is actually a really nice representation of the inks that I really like. And then I've got the Diamine Good Tidings. I don't typically add in the black or gray inks that I choose for my everyday carry, but I figured I'd add it in because it could certainly be one of my top 5 or one of my 5 journaling pens and one of my everyday carry pens. That's certainly an option. So that's why I put it in. And then some other things to consider are, there are a few inks here, specifically Antique Sepia and Petrified Wood, that look very different depending on the paper that I'm writing on. And so even though this is Tomoe River paper, this is not Sanzin Tomoe River. And so in my planner or journal, which does have Sanzin Tomoe River, they can look a little bit different. So this typically in a Hobonichi dries down very green. So it was really difficult to kind of place it in this lineup because I know it's showing a lot of chromo shading there, but it will likely be green in my journaling. So anywho, let me just move this around a little bit so you can see some of the shimmer, some of the sheen. And as a reminder, please let me know your top 5 choices. And as I said at the beginning, if you know pens in my collection and you want to make a recommendation for some pairings, I'd love that too. So with that, I am going to sign off and get this edited and ready to upload, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.